two ways to really foundate an EPC, and getting to the basics of what an EPC is: engineering, procurement, and construction. So really, you're taking those three facets and making sure that that you have a process for them.
Let's get this man in the room, baby. It might take him a little second though, because this is a special guest, one of our good friends.
There he is.
He's coming in. He takes a special entrance.
Yo,
There he is, Mr. Roofio himself, JD De Le Rosa. Let's go. What's up, JD?
that was it.
He's off too. On his
Yeah,
car.
I made it a special appearance to make sure I was not mobile today.
Yeah, man. You had a
Working-
hard day?
working from home.
Long day? How's your day going?
Oh yeah, man. Big Thursday, so it's been good, man.
Well, thanks for making some time for us, bro. This is the Solar Pulse podcast with Josh and Joe, and we got the famous JD De Le Rosa, who's always working in the background at Roofio. A good friend of ours. Obviously, we work really well, work closely together in a lot of ways. But JD, I want to kind of get a little of your story out there to the solar community, if that's cool with you, bro.
Yeah, totally works.
You got your boy Josh King here too, of course.
Going on,
Cool,
folks.
cool. Yeah, Josh and I have gone back a long ways. Also, you and I, Joe. So we've been working together for years and years now.
Hey, yeah, there's the first
it's been
question. Who did you actually know first? Was it me or was
Can-
it
can you
Josh
guys hear
King?
me
I know
okay?
you guys met early in the days.
Okay.
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay. Sorry, it was a little choppy on my side.
What was
So
the question?
I
I want to know the answer to this too.
Yes, I said. So I want to know this answer to this question. Who did you actually meet first? Was it myself or Josh King? Because I know you met Josh King early in the days.
Oh, that's a good question.
And that's
As far as like meeting and like knowing, I've seen you, Joe, around for a while.
let's
I
go.
remember, yeah, I remember back in the days, you were looking for an EPC to figure out a state that you were going into, and I kind of chimed in, and then we started talking, and I think that was probably around the time where I was actually meeting Josh as well. So maybe within the same year, you know.
Who did you meet in person and like serious
That's not the
conversation?
question.
Oh, definitely Josh. Josh came down to Austin. We had some beers on 6th Street. So, yeah, more of
Oh,
a
yeah,
personal touch.
Shady Pig. Is it called Shady Pig or something? Or Fat
Yeah,
Pig?
Blind Pig.
Blind Pig. That's
Yeah.
the one.
Yeah. Yeah, JD's been doing this for a minute, right? Like, tell us about the beginning days. And I know that you had a kind of an origin story to Roofio. And I know people might not know if they don't know you and Roofio. Roofio is not a roofing company. It's a solar company plus roofing. But man, I'll let you kind of explain it more, especially the beginning days, man. How
Right.
does it all start?
Yeah, so I guess taking it back to, are you guys still there? Let me see.
Yeah,
Sorry.
man, you're clear,
My-
loud.
My screen is
Go.
just, I'm on my Mac, so at home. So it kind of gives me a little bit of kickback. Let me put this on real quick. I can't see you guys, but you guys can see me, which is weird.
So
There it is.
just for
Okay.
the record, I met JD first.
For the record.
You had to chime in at that time.
So
right?
I'm gonna take you guys way back into time. So my story, I started knocking doors back in 2006 for a company called First Line Security. That's where I kind of got the grind on my residential in-home kind of just business in general. So I was in Long Island, New York with First Line Security 2006. So anybody that's in the door-to-door or security space knows First Line. They know how far back that was. Worked in security to about 2015, opening up offices all across the country. Worked for regional, national companies, and then opened up my own company with a partner called Vault Security out of DFW. Really learned the intricacies of operations and just everything business related. and then saw the writing on the wall when security was kind of, DIY started coming in. You started seeing a lot more companies or homeowners doing it themselves, Ring doorbell, things like that. And I'm like, I don't want to compete with that. And solar looks really cool. So ended up selling my company to my partner, good little 7-figure exit, and then really just focused on solar. Just really dialing in. I partnered with a company here in Central Texas called Zoe Solar at the time. Um, Came on as a COO, and really, grind and followed my teeth and learning the solar process, warehousing, operations, material, equipment, process, building teams, CRMs, everything that went along with solar and operations. I really learned, and then ended up doing kind of went away from that company to do. And at that time, I actually started Roofio. So Roofio was started. At the time I started with Zoe, but it was bookshelfed. I created the company, I put it on the bookshelf, and then really dove into solar, learning it with Zoe Solar at that time. After my time
And
with
that's
Zoe, it was
2016.
about 2016, yeah, around that time. And then was there for about a year and a half. And we were building up. I was in my mind, I knew Rufio, I was going to take that further, and I was really just a spot for me at Zoe to kind of learn. And after Zoe, I dove into consulting. So I started working with companies in Central Texas and around Texas that were more like install companies, and that's all they were really focused on, and really helping them build sales and the front end process, which I had originally learned in the security industry. So I was kind of a double-edged sword at that time. I knew the operation side, but then I was consulting with installers for their front end side on sales, and really started building up a network of installers that really liked to work with me, because I'd shoot them straight and show them the front end process, and then find deals for them and bring the sales to their install, where they were like, I just want to install, I don't want to worry about sales. So over that time period, I kind of started putting two and two together, and that's where Rufio really started growing, is connecting the installation network that I had built up and the sales training that I was kind of bringing, and partnerships that I was building, like with you, Josh, and Joe, and just all the dealers that were really frustrated with some of the national EPCs. The communication wasn't there, so we really kind of put together a boutique niche market for dealers to be able to communicate direct, have the resources they need, and be able to have that like at that moment, and not have to send an email and wait 24 hours to get some type of feedback. So that's where we've been, and where I've been, and now where I'm at. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I'm gonna ask the first question really quick, and then I'm sure Josh has a bunch to go. But for
Yeah.
me, it's like what I've noticed about you is that you're running a steady ship. You're running a good business, right? And one of those signs is that a lot of companies failed or struggled, or like really was hard times last year, and I didn't really see that from you. Maybe you just didn't show it publicly, but from my perspective, you're just running a really good company. You're growing the right ways. You're not growing too fast. You're getting the right partners. Like you're doing the right things. But can you kind of go a little more in depth, a little more detail about like maybe either did you struggle at all, or if you didn't, like how did you not to go through things like a lot of companies had to?
Yeah, I mean, definitely there were struggles, especially in the beginning. Um, I would say, a lot of people look at the surface of Rufio and see, what we're accomplishing. But in the background, yeah, there's been struggles. There's been tight moments. There's been times where I didn't know the answer, and I had to either figure it out or get a consultant or just something to help along the way. But I think that's what's helped us be successful over time is knowing that we don't know it all. Knowing that if you need to figure something out, don't just like pretend. Go find some, tell someone I don't know, but let me go find someone let me find that answer for you, and then go find the answer. Make sure that it's backed and it's tried and true, and then work backwards. Making sure that you're not putting um, a lot of company. I don't want to compare us to other companies, but what I can say is a lot of companies were putting the trailer before the horse. And what I mean by that is they were paying for things that they didn't have. They were betting on putting like processes and structure and building teams when they didn't even have the infrastructure to support it. Or even on the fulfillment and installation side, they were purchasing trucks and they were building warehouses. And I kind of saw, just from my past business experience, people have to know that it's a market. You got your ups, you got your downs, right? Just like a heartbeat. So when we were the last couple of years on an uptrend, eventually it's going to fall. Eventually that heartbeat's going to come down, and then it'll go back up. But right now we hit that down, and when people were putting the carriage before the horse, they were buying all these things and they were processing things before it was actually into fruition. That's where I think a lot of the businesses made mistakes where I was just a little bit more conservative, and I bet that we were going to have a downturn, and I needed to make sure we prepared for that and didn't go out and be overzealous and purchase things that would help our growth, but what if the sales turned down, right? So I think that's what made us a little bit different.
No, 100%. And also the name Roofio. That confuses a lot of people. They're like, all right, Roofio, roof.io, roof.io, roofing. It must be a roofing company. Is that part of your branding and you want people to look at you as a roofing company and you just do solar, or it's just kind of it's on the roof, it's a solar, it makes sense? Like, what's the strategy behind the branding?
So Roofio started as roof, and then IO is power. So roof power is where the name ultimately came from, and it started, as a solar company. And then, obviously I saw the '90s movie Hook and all the marketing that came behind that of Roofio, the name.
That's the reason we got it out of him from the movie.
It was always like
the truth comes
fun
out.
thing. My girls like watching it, so that name was always there, and I always thought it was a cool name. But ultimately, we started as a solar company,
and then do it now. Do the character.
Yeah, man.
Rufio.
Yeah, it's a fun character to work through. So it's parallel marketing, I guess you can call it. As you got that name and people always associate it. So it's cool. It's helped us and it's worked. But that's also another thing, Joe, is during the times when sales were down and just us being able to pull in roofing allowed us to pivot and bring on another revenue source. So we really pulled on roofing about 2-3 years ago, and really dialed that in and brought that in-house. So if you look at our website, roofio.com, you'll see that it's solar, roofing, energy. So those are the 3 lanes that we want to stay in and stay focused in. Obviously, solar, we've been doing that. Roofing, over the last few years, we've been getting that down and perfecting it more. And then energy is one of the other lanes that we're looking to get into, and we will get into over time. And that's bringing stuff more in-house to be more of an REP, a retail energy provider in Texas. That's one of our goals, having an internal leasing program that we can sell our product, manage the energy into the house, arbitrage all the excess energy, how we can help customers in really managing their energy within the home, not just through solar.
Oh, I thought you were talking about energy efficiency products. You're actually talking about becoming a utility, like another choice for homeowners to get their electricity from. Can you get to more details about that? Because that's fucking huge.
Yeah. So, it's big shoes to fill. It's definitely something that, we're researching and looking into and want to go in that direction. But the ultimate game plan is becoming an REP, being able to, and an REP is retail energy provider, and being able to sell energy in the deregulated market, but not only be able to help customers with that transaction of their utility on their home, but obviously if we're providing solar, we have battery backup, we're able to help that customer really be more energy independent because yeah, you can get a solar system and battery backup, but you're still going to be tied to the grid, and most customers are, right? So you might as well give them a resource to make. Um, what I envision is a way for customers to make money on pushing their power back and doing like peer-to-peer energy sharing, right? So if we get enough customers in Texas, one customer can hold their power here, and then maybe Sue down the road needs some power at one time, and then if we're the RP, then we can facilitate that transaction of energy to that other customer, and we might have another customer over here that might not have the financing available to get a solar system, but hey, if we work out a deal to where we give them the system like in a lease program, and that excess power that they're creating, we're able to sell it into the grid, make money to offset the cost of that system. So now they have a system, but it's paid through a unique financing situation because they're now making power that we're able to capitalize and sell and pay for their system. So that's kind of the idea of the energy part of Roofio, is bringing on and being an REP, and then really helping that side of it as well, not just producing, but helping in consumption as far as like helping customers with their energy, like really buying and selling.
And the three are super closely linked, right? Like roofing, solar, energy. And I know you're doing something with different styles of roofing slash solar products, but it's obvious that all those three things are going to be combined at one point. Tesla has tried the tiles; they didn't really take off. What's the timeline do you think that we're going to see roofing and solar, and then even tacking in, the energy generated from that being used by an REP? But when is at least the solar and roofing going to be like, this is absolutely a viable product? There's no point in doing a new roof and a solar system. It should be this one thing, and whether it's in the form of a tile or an embedded module system, or what do you think the timeline is for that?
Well, you guys saw our prototype with the manufacturer that we're working with over in Japan to bring that over here into the U.S. market, and we're waiting on some certifications to come back. And I think, and I'm confident that we could have this, really offered. We actually have a project ready lined up in Austin that we're going to install on, and we're waiting for a few of the certifications to get back, and we're projecting like September, August to do the install, and that'll be like our first account that we do with our solar shingle product. So what it is, it's a regular roofing material, and then it's interconnected in with a module system. You guys hear me, or is it breaking up?
I got you now. Yeah.
Okay.
I missed out the last second. Could you explain to people who haven't seen that before, like what exactly that is and what it looks like?
Yeah. So basically, taking like a regular solar module, right, and compressing it into a smaller module. So you're losing a little bit of efficiency. It's not as big of a wattage module, but what it's able to do is you're able to checker it into the roof a lot cleaner, a lot tighter. So in essence, you're able to cover more territory of the roof without the larger modules and the bigger wattage modules. So you're in essence making the same wattage, but just with smaller panels because you're able to get into tighter corners. And what it is it goes onto a regular, it pairs with a normal shingle, like a architectural shingle. So, you'd have your underlayment, you would start the shingle installation, and then where you're going to be putting in your modules, it's a racking system that the module goes under the lip of the shingle, but it mounts into the decking. So you don't. So it eliminates the racking of the system of a conventional solar system. It eliminates the racking, and then you're just putting the module into the roof decking, and it's secured that way.
Yeah, it looks a lot more clean. It potentially can save people money on new roofs. It looks super streamlined, and it sort of just makes sense. It's strange to me that, although I don't want customers to hear this, but it's still strange to me that we're still putting racking and a separate system on top of a roof. It's a bit strange. It's like, why haven't we figured out how to combine those two, or at least replace those tiles that would be there with an embedded PV system? I don't know why we're not there yet. It sort of just makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, that eliminates the racking costs out of the equation. So, even if the product comes in a little bit more, you're able to offset what the cost of what you're substituting for the conventional racking would be. So we're anticipating it's coming in at the same, maybe a little bit more just to start off in test marketing, than a conventional solar system installation.
Right. You have to factor in the cost of the roof though as well. It's like,
you do.
What's the numbers in terms of, I get this, so if I ever need a roof replacement, I won't need to replace as many shingles,
Right. So this product is really going to be designed for insurance re-roofs, systems that have been just killed by storms, and you got to start over if you have like 8 panels out of 20 that have been just demolished, and you can't source the 215-watt panels that we were doing like 5 years ago anymore. Insurance companies are like, oh, well, crap, we got to pay for this whole thing anyways because you can't source these old panels. We got to pay for a whole new system. And that's what's happening. So if we come to them with a solution to say, hey, well, not only are we going to do the roof, which we were going to do anyways, but we're going to embed their same system size into their roof. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer for the insurance company. So that's on the insurance claim side of things. And then on new construction and new homes, I mean, if you're going to build a house and you're already starting, you might as well have the cleanest, solar and roofing combination when you're building the house to begin with. So those are really going to be our two inputs into the market. Yeah, we are still able to install on an existing composite shingle roof and then just put but really at that point what we're doing is we're taking off a piece of their roof, right, and then in the solar. So it's not as beneficial to do it that way because you can see you're kind of wasting material at that point. Is like if they just had a new roof like within the last 5 years, you're taking out like, I don't know, a fifth of their roof and really just kind of throwing it away to put the modules in. And that's
right.
That's where.
But how many customers do we get that you can't install a system on the roof and the roof has to be swapped out, regardless. So it's sort of just makes sense to that point.
And then again, that's kind of the third one. So the one's insurance, two's new build, and then the third one is like when you're going to homes to sell them solar and they already know that their roof needs to be replaced anyways, then you're killing two birds with one stone and doing this product for one.
That's why I always say, like, one day every roofing company will be a solar company because one day electrified shingles will be the same cost as regular shingles. So why wouldn't you get the electrified ones that gives you electricity, right? So like one day there's going to be an option for that, right? But right now we don't know everything, right? Because you just can't make it happen, right? There's going to be a future. They may not last as long. They may be, maybe degrade faster. Anything like that you've seen with that? Just curious.
Yeah, I mean,
the lifespan is it.
Well, no, the modules itself still has the same efficiency and degradation as like a conventional module. So there's really no difference on the technology. We're not changing the technology. We're just compressing it. It's like the iPhone compared to like 20 years ago when we just had a phone and we had a calculator and we had a camera and we had, a calendar and we had all these things, right? Well, all those things ended up being compressed into the iPhone 20 years later, right? It's the same with roofing and solar. Like, yeah, there's all these different components, but as time goes, it's going to consolidate in itself. And that's ultimately what we're seeing. It'll become more efficient. Those smaller modules that we're using now are just going to be more efficient over time, even though they're not as, the wattage isn't as big as a conventional like 400 watt, 3x5 panel that we currently see. We will see a 400 watt solar shingle, right, compressed. It might not be 3x5, but it'll be a lot smaller in comparison to this day and age.
And if you think about it, like tiles and shingles on roofs, that hasn't changed for such a long time. And now that solar's a thing and we have the ability to capture the energy from the big ball of sun in the sky, like that is why did they used to do that? Because I guess it was just that's what you put on your roof to keep the water out. But I really doubt new homes are going to be built with standard shingles and stuff in 30, 40 years. Like, it's just a waste of space.
It's like going back to those thatch roof that we saw in the solar villa that they were building out of there. I mean, yeah, it's maybe aesthetically looks cool, but efficiently, like, you probably don't want that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's get back to some EPC talk. And I know that, for me, I'm just trying to get tips, if that's cool with you, JD.
Yeah, man. And I'm just noticing the mustache, man. Joe. Yeah.
It's going through an evolution of, different stages,
Joe Mustache is his new nickname.
I like it.
That's gonna stick, bro. I'm telling you.
That is right.
So as long as Moose Knuckles doesn't stick, I'm good, bro.
That's funny.
I don't think you've tried to get that out there. No one's ever really called you that.
Yeah, you just walk around like this on your mustache. Tell people you want a mustache, right?
All right.
All right. Back to solar.
No, but seriously, like, what does it look like for these newer EPCs starting, and like, what are some tips for these guys? Like, what's the path, moving forward in terms of building an EPC? You think?
Yeah. So I think there's two ways to really foundate an EPC, and getting to the basics of what an EPC is: engineering, procurement, and construction. So really, you're taking those three facets and making sure that you're you have a process for them. The two routes I'm talking about is one is having everything in house. What I mean by that is like trucks and W-2 crews and really internalizing the installation piece. Warehousing your equipment. And the other model is more of a model that Roofio's kind of adapted to, is what I like to call is the fulfillment model. Same process as an EPC, but it's more of like the Uber of XYZ. So like the Uber of solar, where, we as a company, we own the process, but we might not own the driver. We might not own the truck to get the customer from A to Z. But as long as that process is in line and there's processes for every part of that puzzle, then you're accomplishing the same task. And believe it or not, a lot of people, when I started this model, they kind of stuck their nose up at it that, oh, you're not a true EPC, you don't have an installation team, and really, it kind of hurt my feelings at first, but in the long run, believe it or not, the roofing company has been doing it since day, I want to say day one, but like that's a traditional model for a lot of roofing companies, even big national companies, is to outsource or find regional installation teams to fulfill projects. So, my suggestion for EPCs that are getting started is really know which lane you want to go down on the EPC route and stick to one or the other. you could be a hybrid model. I've seen companies do both, where they do have some parts of the region where they in-house trucks and warehouses, and then they sub it out in other regions. But you just got to know, you got to be confident with your process. You got to know your end goal. So for the EPCs that are starting out, make sure your business model is set up correctly and you're following your own process.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say a vast majority of EPCs that went out of business last year in-housed everything and had an absolutely crazy payroll before, and didn't realize that one drop of lower amount of sales would end up in the red within a month or two for their business.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. It's the companies were just getting top heavy. And it's, they're just very optimistic, which isn't bad, but you have to be realistic in a market, because a market always has ups and always has downs. It's a heartbeat. That's what makes it alive.
How about the Texas market itself compared to the rest of the country? Because I noticed that Texas is fucking just crushing it. I feel like a lot of people are psyched to be in Texas. They're excited selling over there. I haven't heard too much, problems, but I'm sure there is a lot of stuff. But what is your perspective of how the Texas market was doing and how they're doing now?
Yeah. Utility rates are still increasing. So that's always an advantage for us in Texas. There hasn't really been a decrease. Also, of course, all of the blackouts, the Icetopia, whatever they call the freeze-topia that happened here in Texas. All those incidences that are happening is just making it more viable to see solar as an option. So, as long as what we put in our contracts called acts of God keep happening, and utility rates are increasingly increasing, I think Texas is always going to be a great market. There's a lot of land, a lot of growth, a lot of opportunity. It started, when I started here, it was definitely the wild, wild west. You'd go try to submit for a permit and for solar or interconnection, and a lot of these utilities would be like, "What is that? I've never seen that form before." And we're like, "Yeah, we got it off your website. Like, you were the one that told us to submit this." So it's come a long way from where it started to where it is now. But yeah, Texas is it's I think, yeah, just like any of I would call the major states, like your California and Texas, are really always going to be the big go-to for solar. Plus, there's a lot of sun.
But you're in multiple states though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So your home base is Austin, Texas. But talk about the other states you're in and the different markets in those areas.
Yeah, so Texas is our backyard. Austin, San Antonio is kind of our central Texas base point. We do service all of Texas. And over the years, we've gone into 7 states, moving into 13. We're rounding out a few, adding the 14th one, Alabama. So I'll list the ones that we're currently in is Texas, Florida, Kansas, Missouri, Oklahoma, Louisiana, and New Mexico. And then the ones that we have our license out for Colorado, Utah, Arizona, the Carolinas, and Virginia and Alabama. And from my understanding, we're just rounding out those applications and licenses, and we should be, any day now from our side as far as being licensed and ready to go.
Alabama, though, I think I've given you pushback on this before. Is the market there just like
No.
is there installation?
I've never even looked into it, but the way our model works is I don't want to put out too much of the secret sauce, but if we're able to attain a state at relatively low or no cost, we're going to take the shot, because we're going to want to add all the states, right? So it's just another piece into the puzzle that we're putting in, and it's just there, so we might as well just acquire that state to get licensed.
I think the last time I like we marketed or sold in Alabama or whatever was probably when we first came into the US. And I remember this is years ago, so
I remember that
probably
too.
lots have
I
changed. But I
remember
remember,
that.
yeah, I remember the people in Alabama had crazy high power bills. They really wanted a solution. I don't even know if we got to the point of credit being an issue, but then there was always like some sort of red tape with installs.
Right.
But
Um,
maybe it's a market that's locked and no one knows about it yet.
yeah, and I don't know too much about the market. I'm more on the operational side as far as setting it up. I know once we get licensed and we're ready to go in there, then we'll kind of dive in and figure out the nuances of like, the buyback programs and incentives, if any, or if there even is an interconnection in Alabama. I don't know, right? But
You know
just
what?
picking up the state in
That
general.
that's actually, one of the things that I respect about you, JD, is that you're always pushing the boundary, always trying new things when it comes to even installations or even marketing or even networking, and you're just always putting yourself out there and just, hey, test, 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 right? And I think that's why it's becoming so, it becomes so innovative. Um, Give us some ideas of how, like, what do you do? That you just kind of like whatever falls to your lap? Are you researching? Are you like, how are you staying so innovative these days?
I'll tell you this, man. 10 years knocking doors. So not a lot of people know that, but in my security days
So
from that
true.
2006
Yep.
or 2016, like building teams and knocking doors, like that in itself will always, it just like programs your mind to just keep going and wanting to go find no's. Like I wake up every morning enthusiastic about going and finding someone to tell me no, because then I'm getting through what crap there is out there to find the yes. I always know there's going to be a yes, but it's the journey, and for me, the excitement of going through the no's. It's the journey for me, right? It's going through the shit. Excuse my French, but to get to the, and you guys have heard that story. The two kids, and one had a room full of poop, and the other had a room full of toys. I don't know if y'all heard that story before. If not, I can tell it.
It's
Okay, so yeah,
some stuff.
maybe I should tell
You
it now or
100%
save it
have
for
to
another
tell it.
time. Okay, now I have to tell it. All right,
No,
so
you definitely got to tell it.
two twins were put in two different rooms. One had just a pile of shit in the room, and the other one had full of toys. Right? The one kid, was playing with the toys, and it was, this car's broken. This toy it smells weird, and this toy, it doesn't have any batteries. Just always complaining, right? And then the other kid is jumping around. He's like swimming in the shit. He's like doing belly flops, and like, and then they came and asked the two kids like, well, why are you so happy, with a room full of crap? And he's like, well, I know there's a room full of crap here, but there's got to be a pony in here somewhere. So, moral of the story is it's your mindset of what you're given and what you can expect out of each room or day that you're presented, right, is really what's going to make that end result.
Yeah. And on top of that, I come to JD with crazy ideas every week. So
Yeah, yeah, and those are fun, like, it's, you don't always have to be a buttoned up like business professional wearing a tie and like being presentable and
What are you trying to
like,
say? What are you trying to say about Josh? What do you?
I'm just, no. I'm not saying that for you guys. I'm just saying in general, like, yeah, there's those guys out there, but you gotta like, you gotta roll with the punches and be okay with the no's and like putting yourself in front of situations that, yeah, might not be like ideal or, might not know about. Um, and it's okay. I think that's the fun part about business.
I like the door knocking analogy about like because you're trained. So I did a ton of door knocking, cold calling, but I think I don't think that unlocked for me when I started doing that. I think I was already doing that before, but I'm absolutely obsessed with just finding out what doesn't work because I know every single time I find something that doesn't work, you're one step closer to what does work.
Hmm?
So like It's very distinct in my mind that there's two types of people: those that are afraid of failure and those that like look for the failure, and not just as like a motivational like when it's okay to fail. No, like literally look for it. Like, okay, where can we fail next to know that that doesn't work to move on to something else?
Mhm.
It's two really distinct personality types, I find.
Yeah.
You know what? It's actually surprised me that you're talking about being innovative. You're so innovative that you didn't even talk about some of the most innovative things you're doing, JD. I thought you were going to talk more of some of the finance things. You're just really looking for finance products to help everyone. Like, doesn't matter who you are. Like, you need help with electricity. I want to help you. Do you want to kind of hit on that? Like, just your HDM, green. You don't have to talk about the actually names of them, but like just the different types of helping the different kinds of homeowners out there.
Yeah, and I think for us being able to just offer different options to our dealers and just sales in general, ultimately, you guys are on the front lines and are seeing. So, we're like the artillery house to where you can come get your weapons and go out to battle. So I want to make sure if you're going to battle with me that you have the best weapons and you're going out there well prepared to fight, right? So I'm always looking for, something that's going to help. And all the time I'll have, even Josh will call me up, hey, have you heard about this? I'm like, no, I haven't, but I want to, right? Let's get them on the phone and let's figure it out, and we'll figure,
I don't, but I want to. I
yeah,
love
it's
that.
like, I'm a lot of times I'm listening, and I think for most business owners and EPCs, like you had asked me, Joe, what can some EPCs do? They really need to listen to their sales teams, and and a CEO, believe it or not, I went out last week and ran some appointments just to like keep myself in the
Hell
mix
yeah.
and know and understand and like see what these guys are dealing with on the daily, and if you have that mindset and you have that knowledge of what's happening on the battlefield, then you can prep your team and your groups for the right weapons to go into battle. So as far as like financial products, um, we are looking to internalize a lease product and go hand in hand with what I was talking about, about being the REP and offering those services. It's a very, I wouldn't say razor thin type model, but there is like some risks on taking on that type of financing model. The security industry did it for years and they still do it, where you're leasing the
Why
equipment.
not? Right?
Yeah, you lease the
Go for
equipment
it.
and then you get an MMR on the customer, right? So, really it's
What's the
finding
MMR for us
Monthly recurring
novices?
revenue.
monthly monitoring rate, MMR, just or our recurring revenue, just like where the customer is paying on a monthly basis for the system or service. So, and like I said, the security industry, that's their model is, hey, you get a complimentary system and all you got to do is pay for the monitoring. Well, you could do the same thing for solar if you price it right and it's set up correctly. It's like, hey, we could take care of the system as long as you pay for the servicing or however you want to position it to the customer. I don't think we're too far off to start seeing some. I mean, we're already seeing some of that in some of these lease programs, especially here in Texas. Um, but I think that we're going to start seeing more of it when it's done correctly, and it's paired with other things and services as well.
Well, talk about what it's pairing with, like different softwares. I know you're work directly with Cinevo, and I'm sure other softwares. But how does that, directly impact your business?
Yeah, I mean something with Cinevo being able to package up solar. I know Josh and I have talked about adding a roofing piece to it, but as far as like the financing piece, a lot of these companies are getting creative with the ITC. They're selling off the ITC for the customer. I've seen this on a lot of these lease programs, taking that capital, paying for the front end equipment and labor, and then I mean, that's what a lease is, and then they're monthly charging the customer for the product. So as far as like technology and um, Josh has put together, you and Josh have put together a great uh, platform to be able to consolidate the products and services into one, and really that's what's going to be those are going to be the big weapons is the point of sale. Um, Point of sale is what I see is like that's the dagger in the heart. That's the kill move right there, right? So you got to have that one ready to go, and that's Sunil is really putting that together. So
With the design, I don't know if I told you, JD, but we just launched a beta of our auto design. So literally put in an address and it will automatically create panel placement, editable, rotatable, movable panel placement. And then we're also going to be releasing, if you put in an average monthly bill of any property, it'll be able to pull the property's rates and estimate the annual usage to match the system to whatever offset you want. And I can also pull square footage of any roof as well, just with an address. So
that's it.
I have to talk to you in terms of roofing, but
Yeah. Well,
that could be easy.
that's the next piece of the puzzle, right? Because once we get um, the solar shingle product certified and ready to go, that's what we're going to need to know is like the square footage of the roof and how much the production. And if you're combining those two into the system, then your system is ultimately what's going to be the sharpest weapon and best tool in the shed at that point. That's what I would tell any
Yeah. Well, what do you
company
think?
that's
So
in the
we've had a lot of conversations
proposal or
about
point of sale
self-service
spotlight
software,
right
right?
now is combining roofing and solar right now. And it might not be popular right now, but I guarantee you're going to be the popular kid in the class 5 years down the road when your software is able to combine both of them and you're offering that for a product that's now available.
Yeah, you cut out for a sec for me, but we've also been talking about like customer self-service software, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the automated roof square footage, automated panel placement, offset production values based off of customers' just bill that they put in is a step close to that. Where what's your today's take? I think I know your take maybe like 3 or 4 weeks ago. I don't know if it's changed. But how do you see that changing, the self-service type of thing where a customer needs roof or energy or solar? You go into a website, put some information in. I've had a lot of talks with the sales guys a lot, and my big thing is there still needs to be a point where the sales guy needs to jump in because customers aren't going to close themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But where do you think on the roofing plus solar side of things, what could that process look like now or in a year or two?
Yeah, I'm still on the same wavelength and thought process of it that eventually people are going to self check out themselves for solar. As long as the technology is improving and the design tools are improving to make it more to make it easier for a customer to understand, then ultimately, yeah, sales guy would be a little scared of it, right? Because I mean, if you think about it, the technology is going to be replacing a lot of the heavy lifting that they're typically doing now for the sale. Um, where self service and self checkout, that's what we saw in the security industry, right? Not necessarily like DIY, but yeah, going and buying a Google Home system or like one of the plug and play security systems. We're gonna see where the technology is just getting easier and easier, and eventually, yeah. I mean, if you were to ask me what I see in 10 years, I see a self checkout that's able to do your solar and roof together in one product. And, it's just an easy pick my color, pick my system size, and how much storage I want with that.
Yeah.
And probably at that point, the batteries are going to be put in the attic with fans, so like solar fans. Um, you know, I just see things just being a lot more condensed and like I don't know, like maybe the utilities get a little bit more, they kind of catch on and they want to jump in and they, offer an inverter with their meter, and it controls the solar on every home that already has solar. So like, yeah, we're going to see some different unique stuff coming across the board. But to answer the question in whole, yeah, the proposal tool is really what's going to make it, how the salesperson is going to be able to close.
How do you do it where you're located in Texas and you're in multiple states and you have so many moving parts, and you're watching a whole team, they're knocking doors all over the country almost, and how do you make sure they're doing the right things, and they're making sure they're doing it for your business and they're representing your company, and like how do you do that when they're so far in different parts of the country?
Yeah. So mostly for the sales side of things, as you know, we work through a dealer network. So we work with a lot of companies that already are marketing themselves in the industry, and then we just provide the point of sale or platform for them to close with our contract and financing. But where we step in is we make the working relationship, and we vet a lot of the sales organizations that we work with and make sure that they understand that we're not going to put up with crap sales, right? B, we are going to do a welcome call, so the customer is going to understand what is going on, and C, that customer is going to know that Roofio is going to take the account from A to Z after it's sold, right? So there's parts of the puzzle that we step into that we take care of. But to answer your question, Joe, on like the sales side, all the dealers that are out there, they're really managing themselves, and we're providing platforms for them to sell. And then once it's sold, then we really take it from there and then really start managing at that point. Now, we do have channels for our dealers to communicate to us pre-sale, right? So if they do have questions, they have some questions on financing or pushing the process through, we're able to chime in and help. But for the most part, the heavy lifting on the sales side is done by the dealer.
Well, say the solar community is watching right now, right? They're all out there saying, "I want to work with JD and Roofio." Who are you looking for, though? Who do you want to work with? Are you looking for like dealers? Are you looking for salespeople? Are you looking for installers? Are you looking for admin or anything particular that people should know?
So I'm really looking for someone that on the dealer side that, and I'll talk about the two parts that I'm looking for. One is the installation side, one is the sales dealer side. But I'll talk on the sales dealer side first. One, I'm looking for someone that has it buttoned up. So if you're an individual that doesn't understand like how to manage an organization, then I would say pair up with someone like you, Joe, or Josh, Virtual Solar Club, someone that has an organization and knowledge of solar sales and process, and team up with you guys. Past that, I'm looking for a buttoned up sales organization that has their stuff together, that has used other EPCs in the past, and then, we kind of come in and say, hey, this is the good, bad, the ugly, and this is what we're able to show you and do better. We, as you guys know, we just shoot them straight, right? So on the sales side, that's what I'm looking for. If you're an individual sales rep, by all means, you guys are the go-to that I'm, looking for ultimately, right? Like the sales org. So those guys definitely need to team up with someone that's more experienced. Past that, if you guys are an organization that's really fluent, then we'll work with you guys on that level. On the installer side, we work with a lot of regional installation companies. We help a lot of companies that are needing installs to keep payroll going. They might be a great installation team, but they just don't have the sales. So, we'll contract out some of the labor pieces for them to fulfill our projects. And it's a great working relationship. So on that side, I'm vetting and looking for teams that are honest. They're honest with their region. So a lot of times we come up against installation teams that are, hey, I can cover this territory and this territory, and then they really can't, right? So like, if you're going to come talk to me about being partnering up with our installation network, then you just be honest with yourself on what territories you can cover. We do our own vetting as far as licensing and insurance and COIs that we're on. So making sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed. We're going to do that in our vetting process. But really, just shoot me straight if you're going to interview on that side of the installation part of our company. Other than that, those are really the two pieces that we really look for. So full-fledged sales dealers and or regional installers that like to have more cash flow.
And if you guys don't know, it's really easy to connect with JD. He's awesome. He's on social media. He definitely gets his opinion out there on Facebook. So if you don't know, get him on Facebook and Instagram. Also, networking events. This guy is, always showing up. He was there at the Solar Villa. He was there at Door to Door Con. He was there at SolarCon. He was there. He's always showing, face, and he's always supporting too. Like, he's sponsoring things when maybe not, for the ROI, just to, help the, the organization, whatever else. So he's really, helping the community a lot. But can you talk about the importance of these, networking events and why you take the time when you could be, you're busy, you're working full time all day, every day, and you're taking time out to go to these network events? Why?
Sorry, and you cut out when you were asking that question. I'm trying to close some of my windows here to maybe make things a little quicker. But you had asked if about showing up to events, and I didn't really hear the first part of that.
Yeah, you're showing up to Solar Villa and SolarCon and you're sponsoring and you're putting your name out there and you're shaking hands and you're taking time away from work where you could be, you're full time working and you could be installing and you're taking time to go to these network events. Why?
Yeah, so and I always talk, it's like campaigning, it's shaking hands and kissing babies, right? Showing up and showing face is really like the most important thing a business can do, right? People don't know you if you don't show up. So I feel like, just showing face and going to people's events, even if it doesn't help you directly, if you're showing up, at least you're showing face and people know that you're going to be there, or you're able to take the time to support their events, and it's all reciprocal, right? So like, there's times when I've asked people to come to things I need, and vice versa. So I just think as a whole, as a community, as if I'm talking to the solar community, just show up, not to get anything out of it, but just to show face, to let people know that you're still in the fight. We're all here fighting the same battle, and that's getting as many solar projects out there as possible, right? So, you know, show up to the fight, right? Like, you don't necessarily have to fight, but at least show up to it. That you're there to support it.
Well, you're pumping me up, bro. I'm sure there's a lot of people out there are getting pumped up too, and they want to connect with you. And obviously, they go to Roofio.com. What's your social medias if they wanted to reach out, connect that way?
We're just Roofio on Facebook. It's going to be the real Roofio on Instagram, um, social at Roofio.com, and yeah, that's pretty much all the. And you can find it all on our Roofio.com page. It has all of our socials on there as well.
Yeah, and I gotta say, JD is one of the best people to work with. Really business minded. Really one of the guys always trying to do his part, give out he can. So I really appreciate JD giving you time for us today, dropping some tips and nuggets for the audience. Josh, got anything else, bro?
Yeah, well, you guys are like brothers to me, guys, and it's always a
Yes.
pleasure working with you guys and having fun, and in the end, this is it's all about the the moments, right, and the work and the blood, sweat, and tears, and the things that we're going through now. So I appreciate you guys as well.
Hell yeah, that's Rufio's head man, JD De La Rosa, baby. Let's go. Appreciate you, JD.
All right, guys.
Peace.